Lesson Lesson 9, Main Topic and Main Purpose Questions. Listening. After each conversation or lecture in listening section, there is a set of questions. The first question of each set is often a main topic question or main topic and main purpose. To answer these questions, you need to understand the whole conversation or lecture. This conversation can be phrased in a number of ways. Conversations. What are these people mainly talking about? What is the main topic of this conversation? What is this conversation primarily about? Why is the man woman talking to the professor? What is the purpose of this conversation? Saya artikan ya, what are these people mainly talking about? Secara umum ini orang-orang berbicara tentang apa? Apa main topik dari percakapannya? Secara utamanya, secara garis besar percakapannya tentang apa? Mengapa perempuan mengapa perempuan atau laki-laki tersebut berbicara kepada profesor? Apa tujuan dari percakapan ini? Untuk lecture and class discussions, what is the primary topic of this lecture? Apa topik utama dari perkuliahan? What is the main point of this lecture? Apa poin utamanya dari perkuliahan ini? What is the purpose of this lecture? Apa tujuan dari perkuliahan? What is the topic of the class discussion? Apa topiknya dari diskusi kelas? What is the main subject of this discussion? Apa subjek utama dari diskusi tersebut? What are the students and the professor discussing? Apa yang didiskusikan antara siswa dan profesor? The answer to main topic or main purpose questions must correctly summarize the conversation or lecture. Jadi harus memberikan kesimpulan ke percakapan ataupun perkuliahan. Incorrect answers have one of these characteristics. Nah, jawaban-jawaban yang salah itu begini ciri-cirinya. They are too general, terlalu umum. They are too specific, terlalu spesifik. Focusing on detail in a conversation or lecture. They are incorrect according to the information in the conversation or lecture. Jadi informasinya salah. They are not mentioned in a conversation or lecture. Pilihannya itu yang tertulis di pilihan tidak pernah disebut di dalam percakapan ataupun perkuliahan. Although answering these questions will require an overall understanding of the conversation or lectures, the first few sentences often set the scene. Ini maksudnya, walaupun maksud pertanyaan ini kita harus menyimpulkan atau memahami secara keseluruhan, tapi beberapa kalimat awal di percakapan tersebut itu kalimat-kalimat penting. Give you a general idea. Itu yang akan memberikan kita gambaran umum of what the conversation or lecture will be about. In fact, in some lectures, the speaker will actually announce the main topic at the beginning of the talk. Ada juga yang bahkan langsung mengumumkan di bagian depannya seperti in our last class we discussed blah blah blah, but today we are going to move on to. In this class, we're going to focus on blah blah blah. Today, I'd like to introduce the topic of blah blah blah. When you are taking notes, as soon as you become aware of the main topic of the conversation or lecture, you should write it down and underline or circle it. Remember to circle it. Pay attention to the blackboard screen that are shown before the lectures begin. Oke, berarti kita harus memperhatikan blackboardnya terlebih dahulu sebelum perkuliahan dimulai. Copy down the information shown on the screens on your note paper. Oh, catat memang berarti di lembar jawabannya, lembar catatannya kita, di note taking kita sebelum perkuliahannya mulai. The words that are written on a blackboard are often related to the main idea. Biasanya yang ada di blackboard itu akan sangat berhubungan dengan ide utamanya. Here is a conversation from the listening preview test and main topic questions about it. Sample item. Listen to conversation from the listening preview test and a main topic questions about it. Sample notes on this question are also provided. You can see the script. Now, start the audio program. I'm just gonna show you the note taking and play the audio at the same time.
Main purpose questions. Sample item.
Listen to a conversation between a student and a professor.
Professor Dixon, I'm Brenda Pierce from your Geology 210 class.
Yes, I know. That's a big class, but I do recognize you. As a matter of fact, I noticed you weren't in class yesterday morning. Did you oversleep? That's one of the problems with an 8 o'clock class. I almost overslept myself a couple of times.
Oh, no, I didn't oversleep. In fact, I was up at 5 o'clock. One of my roommates had an early flight and I took her to the airport. I thought I'd make it back here in time, but, well, you know how traffic can be out on Airport Road at that time of day. Anyway, I know you were going to tell us, give us some information about our research paper in class today. Do you have a few minutes to fill me in?
Well, a few minutes, I guess. This isn't my regular office hour. I actually just came by my office to pick up a few papers before the faculty meeting.
Okay, well, about the research paper, how long does it have to be?
Well, as I told the class, the paper counts for 30% of your grade. It should be at least 12 pages, but no more than 25. And your bibliography should contain at least 10 reference sources.
Will you be assigning the topic, or?
I'm leaving the choice of topic up to you. Of course, it should be related to something we've discussed in class.
I'm interested in writing about earthquakes.
Earthquakes. Well, I don't know, Brenda. That sounds like much too broad a topic for a short research paper.
Oh, well, I plan to get more specific than that. I want to write about using animals to predict earthquakes.
Really? Well, once scientists wondered if perhaps there was some connection between strange behavior in animals and earthquakes, and that you could use them to predict earthquakes. But there have been a lot of studies on this subject, and so far none of them have shown anything promising.
But I thought there was this. I saw this show on television about earthquakes, and it said that in China, I think it was, they did predict an earthquake because of the way animals were acting.
Oh, right. You're thinking of the Heqiang earthquake about 30 years ago? Well, that's true. There were snakes coming out of the ground in the middle of winter when they should have been hibernating. And supposedly horses and other animals were acting frightened. And there were other signs too, not just from animals. So the government ordered an evacuation of the area. And in fact, there was an earthquake, so thousands of lives were probably saved.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. That's what I saw on television.
The problem is that, unfortunately, no one's been able to duplicate that kind of result in China or anywhere else. There have been lots of earthquakes since then that haven't been predicted, and there have been a couple of false alarms when cities were evacuated for no reason. And like I said, none of the studies that have been done have shown that animals are any better at predicting earthquakes than people are.
So you don't think that's a very good idea for a topic then, I suppose?
I didn't say that. Just because this theory hasn't been proven doesn't mean you couldn't write a perfectly good paper about this topic on the notion that animals can predict earthquakes. Why not? It could be pretty interesting. But to do a good job, you'll need to look at some serious studies in the scientific journals, not just some pop science articles in newspapers, and you can't get your information from television shows.
You really think it might make a good paper? Well, then, I think if I can get enough information from the library or the internet.
Okay, why don't you see what you can find? Oh, I forgot to mention, you'll need to write up a formal proposal for your paper and work up a preliminary bibliography and hand it in to me a week from tomorrow. I'll need to approve it before you get started. Now, if you'll excuse me, Brenda, I've got to get to that faculty meeting.
Sample question. What is this conversation mainly about? The student's grade in her geology class, the topic of a research paper that the student must write. Jadi pilihan pertama tentang grade, nilainya kah yang dia perbincangkan? Pilihan kedua, topic of the research paper, topik dari penelitiannya. Atau yang ketiga, a class assignment that the student did not hand in, tugas kelas yang siswa itu tidak kumpulkan. Atau keempat, the reason that the student did not attend the class, alasan siswa tidak menghadiri kelas. The subject of the student's grade, choice 1, grade ya tentang nilai, was barely mentioned in the conversation, tidak terlalu disebut, tidak disebut bahkan ya hampir tidak disebut. The professor simply says that the paper will account for 30% of the student's grade. Papernya akan memberi sumbangan 30% di grade-nya. The conversation does deal with the class assignment. Untuk kita bahas pilihan ketiga ya. Membahas tentang class assignment, a research paper, but it is an assignment that the student must do in the future. Tapi tugasnya nanti akan di masa depan saja dikerja. In the future. Not one that she did not hand in. So choice 3 is not correct. Bukan dari masa lampau atau tugas yang tidak dia kumpulkan. The professor does mention the fact that the student did not attend class yesterday morning, but this only a detail in the conversation. The reason that the student did not attend class, ya dia disebut alasan siswa tersebut tidak datang ke kelas, tapi ini bukan topik utamanya. Hanya detail-detailnya saja, jadi kita tidak boleh memilih jawaban keempat. The student and the professor are mainly talking about the research paper that the student must complete and about a possible topic for this paper, predicting earthquakes by observing animal behavior. Jadi pilihannya adalah pilihan yang kedua, membicarakan tentang topik dari artikel penelitiannya dan yang siswa harus tulis. Nah, topiknya itu, topik untuk papernya adalah memprediksi bencana alam, gempa, dengan mengamati kelakuan dari gerak-gerik dari hewan.